Jeff, her husband, is going to be kind enough to be our translator. So we will begin the questions. The first question is, for Jacinta, can you still remember what the Blessed Virgin looked like?
Jacinta, ¿puedes recordar cómo fue la Virgen en su aspecto?
Sí.
¿Cómo? Yes, she said yes, she can
Sí,
remember.
pues como por vestido, ¿cómo venía vestida en el aspecto?
Pues su cara, por ejemplo, ¿cómo fue? ¿Guapa?
Oh, sí.
Pues sí, eso, fue guapa.
Oh, sí, la recuerdo como, pues como una persona que jamás se puede olvidar.
Yeah, she remembers her as somebody that you can never forget. Very beautiful person.
Here is a picture of Our Lady of Perpetual Help. Didn't you once say that the pictures of the Virgin that you saw, of all the pictures of the Virgin that you saw, this one reminded you the most of her?
¿Recuerdas que esta Virgen fue un poco parecido o no?
No.
No, she didn't remember that she looked this way as this picture.
Well, see, we remember that when Jacinta visited us in New York, Joey had a big painting of Our Lady of Perpetual Help, this particular painting, and people remember Jacinta saying that was the look that...
Oh, the look on the face, like the expression.
Or maybe the expression in the eyes.
A lo mejor recuerda un poco en los ojos porque es como los ojos como bondad, pero la cara es muy gorda esta.
She says that she remembers it real well because the eyes, says this eyes of this Virgin here has a very compassionate look, you know, very kind. That reminds her of the kindness in the eyes of the Blessed Virgin, but says that the face of this Blessed Virgin is a little bit fatter than the one that the way she saw her. So in that sense, physically, the face is not that similar, but the eyes are similar in their look. You know, that way there's a similarity.
What about this one?
¿Y esto, Jacinta, es mejor?
No, peor eso.
Peor? So that one's worse. Well, you know, I mean worse in the sense that it's not in resemblance.
Not as close, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Very good. Can you describe the crown that Our Lady wore at Garabandal and the crown that the infant wore? And did you ever count the number of stars on the Virgin's crown?
¿Puedes decir algo sobre la corona de estrellas de la Virgen? ¿Cómo fue la corona? ¿De estrellas?
De estrellas venían así, de 12 estrellas.
She says that the crown was round, like she motioned, of 12 stars.
It was 12?
12. ¿Fue 12?
Sí, 12.
You counted the...
¿Has contado?
Sí, por eso cada vez que veo una virgen lo primero que hago es contar las estrellas.
Yeah, she said, yeah, they counted and there were 12, and she says that's why whenever she sees this type of a statue of the Blessed Virgin with a crown on, she counts and you see there's 12, because that's the way it should be.
Were they, this is a fine detail, I don't know, were they 6-pointed stars or 5-pointed stars?
¿Recuerdas cuántos puntos tuvo cada estrella? ¿Fue como de 5 puntos o 6?
Yo creo que 5. Yo creo que 5.
She believes that there were 5.
Cinco.
You know, she believes that there were 5-pointed stars.
Now, wasn't it true that the crown was open? It wasn't a complete closed circle, but was it open and come out from the temples like this?
Fue abierto, ¿no?
Sí, porque a veces nos las poníamos nosotros.
Yes, he said yes, it was open. He said that sometimes they were able to put it on themselves. That the Blessed Virgin allowed them to put it on themselves.
But did it go straight up, or was it like this way, sort of out like on an oblique? Do you know what I mean?
No fue completamente arriba de todo, no fue un poco
nada más así.
Yeah, she said it was a little bit so in the front, coming out a little bit. It wasn't straight up over. It was sort of slanted forward a little bit.
I see. Very good. Now there was a pattern or design on the Virgin's dress. Can you describe what the design was like?
En el vestido de la Virgen fue un dibujo. ¿Puedes decir cómo fue el vestido?
Pues sí era blanco con dibujos como flores, pero no se notaba mucho el dibujo, nada más había como un dibujo, pero no muy marcado.
She said that the dress was white and that it had like flowers on it, and that the design, this pattern of flowers was there, but it wasn't real strong, you know, but it was sort of faint, and the pattern, but it was of flowers on a white dress.
Were they big flowers or small
grandes,
flowers?
Flowers grandes or pequeños?
No, ni pequeñas ni grandes.
They were neither real large or real small, sort of intermediate size.
Okay. Can you The Virgin wore no belt, is that right?
No tuvo cinturón, no?
No.
No, she didn't have
No.
Can you describe the light that surrounded Our Lady? Were there rays of light, or was it just very bright? And were there any hues of color?
¿Cómo fue la luz en los alrededores de la Virgen? ¿Fue como rayos o cómo fue? ¿Esos colores? Or?
No sé, era muy brillante, era una luz muy brillante que no molestaba, pero yo no me fijaba en los colores de la luz, nada más miraba a la Virgen, nada más veía que había mucha luz.
She noted that there was a lot of light, so it was very bright, but she didn't notice if there were colors in it or not, because she was putting her attention into the appearance of the Blessed Virgin herself, but she didn't notice there was a bright light around her and behind her, you know.
Nada más veía cuando, por ejemplo, era de noche, todo era de día.
Yeah, so especially at night, if there was apparition at night, she noticed everything was so bright, it was like day. Day during night, you know, so that was one thing she noticed very much, you know.
But she didn't see rays of light, she just saw a
no, has visto rayos de luz.
No sé si eran rayos, solamente era una claridad muy grande, con una luz muy grande.
She doesn't recall especially rays of light, but she just knew it was a great brilliance.
Yo no recuerdo porque no me fijaba en...
But she didn't
no me fijaba.
notice in such small details, you know, like trying to analyze in the background.
But could she see anything in the background? Like, could she see on the fringe of this vision, could she see the trees, say, by the pines, or anything like that?
Pues ver algo más, por ejemplo, atrás de la Virgen, como los árboles,
nada
más que luz.
Nada más luz, en todas partes luz, ella redondada, nada más la Virgen y luz.
So no, all she could see was the Blessed Virgin herself and light. Everywhere she looked, it was just bright light and the Blessed Virgin. So it was only the Blessed Virgin and light, nothing else. Anything from the outside was not seen.
The Virgin came to Garabandal as Our Lady of Mount Carmel and had the scapular on her wrist during the apparitions. Do you know what it was? Did you know what it was when you first saw it?
Cuando la Virgen apareció con el escapulario en su mano, ¿sabías qué es escapulario la primera vez?
Pues sí, porque yo sabía que era escapulario porque siempre, como dicen...
¿Qué? ¿Porque tuvo el aspecto de un escapulario?
Sí, tuvo el aspecto de un escapulario, además nosotros en casa de mis padres toda la vida rezábamos el escapulario.
Yes, she said when the Blessed Virgin first appeared with the scapular, she realized the first time that it was a scapular because it looked somewhat like a scapular, and they had already been familiar with the scapular in their own family life because they'd always worn it and had it in their family life before. So she realized that was a scapular when she had it, you know, there.
Very good. Did Our Lady ever speak to you about it? Did she ever explain the significance of the scapular?
La Virgen habló del escapulario, dijo algo, por ejemplo.
Oh, sí, dijo que era muy importante llevar el escapulario.
Yes, she said that was the Blessed Virgin said it was very important to wear the scapular. It was important, so she did explain that much. That was important.
In other words, she did more than she said something about it. She did more than just wear it.
Yes, she made a comment saying it was important to wear. That's what she was saying.
Can you describe the scapular the Virgin wore, had on her wrist?
Veía como un monte en una parte y no sé, una cruz, yo creo.
So there was like a mountain on it, and one part had like a cross on it. ¿Y fue algo más?
Es que no me fijaba yo en esas cosas.
She said that she didn't really
notice. Yo sé que era un
all the
escapulario, pero no investigaba mucho a ver lo que era.
She didn't investigate it real thoroughly. She knew it was a scapular, though.
But could you tell what color the cross was?
Colors, los colores, la cruz tuvo un color.
Yo creo que la cruz era blanca y el escapulario marrón, la tela marrón.
She said it seems that the scapular itself was of a brown color, like a dark brown, and that the cross was white. The cruz fue como blanca, like a white cross. It seems to her that way, you know, that it was that color.
Can she remember what color the mountain was?
The mountain, la montaña, el monte, tuvo color.
Pues algo color tenía, a lo mejor sería como crema o algo.
She said it had some sort of color, a little bit different to it, like a cream color. A cream color would be like a light brown. It was a different color because to be distinct.
Now, isn't it true that Our Lady did not wear the scapular when she carried the infant Jesus? But how did she hold him? Did she hold him then with both hands?
Es verdad que la Virgen no tuvo escapular con el niño Jesús.
Cuando venía el niño Jesús, no.
Yeah, she says that when she came to the Christ child, she did not have a scapular with her. Does his father have to turn that on?
Do you want to turn on?
That records for the movie.
When Jacinta was describing Our Lady's crown, I had also asked if she could describe the infant's crown.
Oh yeah, the infant's crown. ¿Y el niño Jesús tuvo corona también? No recuerdas.
No recuerdo.
I don't remember if he had a crown or not.
No recuerdo.
¿No recuerdas?
No.
¿Era una corona pequeña?
No recuerdo.
Pero recuerdas al niño Jesús.
Al niño Jesús sí que le recuerdo, pero no recuerdo la corona.
She says she remembers the Christ child, but she doesn't remember exactly if he had a crown on. That detail, you know. So, but she remembers it.
Igual no la traía, no
So
sé.
it's possible that he wasn't wearing one. I don't know. She was saying she didn't remember that detail, but she does remember him. She remembers him though.
How did the Blessed Mother hold the infant Jesus when she didn't have?
Oh yeah. ¿Cómo llevó la Virgen en su brazo el niño Jesús? ¿En su brazo, mano o cómo?
Pues así lo traía. Ay.
¿En un brazo o dos brazos o cómo?
No, yo lo tenía en un brazo y el otro así. No lo
Uh-huh.
traía con los dos, no lo traía con uno solo así. Esto así.
It seemed like the Blessed Virgin had this child in one arm, which is
Just
small,
one arm.
because it's a baby, you know, baby
Sí.
Jesus.
Nosotros
So
lo
this one
cogíamos con las dos. ¿no?
Uh-huh. Says she and the other girls held it with two hands, you know, in both arms, you know, they'd be more careful, but, you know, with the Virgin, you know, it was just like one arm because it was a baby, you know, baby Jesus.
But how would she didn't have the scapular, but what would she be doing with her other, like if she had the infant like this,
¿Y
what would she
qué
do
pasaba
with
con el
her?
otro brazo si no tuvo escapulario allí con el niño Jesús?
Sí, yo no recuerdo eso, si lo tenía con las dos. Son
Entonces,
detalles que yo no me fijaba en esto.
She says that those are details that she didn't really pay that much attention to. For example, when the Christ child was there, her attention was in him. You know, it wasn't what the other arm had. Es posible entonces tuvo escapulario.
Pues no lo sé, si sería ahora me fijaría más, pero de 12 años yo no me
She's saying that
fijaba.
maybe it is possible that the scapular was in her other hand at the time, but she didn't notice it. Because she was saying before that she wasn't, she didn't think it was, but it was that she didn't notice it there, you know. But it's like she says now, it could have been there because her attention was looking at the Christ child at the time. But those are details that maybe at that moment had she been asked, you know, after so many years, you know, certain details can't recall everything. You know,
Right.
Which is now.
During the apparitions, you were seen presenting a missal to the Virgin to kiss. Did she only kiss the cover, or did she kiss some of the pages?
La Virgen besó este misal cubierto encima o ojos también.
Tampoco lo recuerdo, yo no sé si se lo daba o lo abría por el centro.
Pero besó, ¿no?
Le besó, sí, pero yo no sé si era por la cubierta o lo abríamos al centro.
So she remembers Blessed Virgin kissed the missal, but she's not quite sure whether, you know, it was the pages inside too or just the cover. Doesn't remember it, but she does remember the fact that she did kiss the missal.
Okay. Now the next series of questions deal with the warning and the 2 nights of the screams. On the 2 nights of screams, you saw visions of the future conditional chastisement that will come to mankind if we do not change after the warning and miracle. Did you also see the warning?
Estos 2 noches de gritos fueron apariciones del futuro del castigo y cosas, y también se vio algo del castigo, del viso también.
Pero yo de eso no prefiero no hablar.
It was about that subject. She says she prefers not to speak about it.
Okay.
Porque nada más lo único en eso era lo que nos decía era que tendríamos que pedir mucho y rezar mucho para el mundo.
She remembers.
Pero ella no nos mandó decir, pues decir lo que estoy viendo.
Yeah, she said that. So what she remembers was that the Blessed Virgin said it's very important to pray about that whole, you know, affair that is to come. But she said that the Blessed Virgin didn't order them or tell them that they should publish or speak about all the details of what they saw, you know, for the future there concerning the chastisement and the warning. So she said she prefers not to speak about it because she wasn't told to speak about it. and therefore feels that perhaps she shouldn't reveal some of these details about the future.
But although there have been things that, for example, I know Mary Lowry has spoken about what she saw during the chastisement. But my question was, though, did they actually see the warning? I'm not asking if it's something that she can't speak about, but the question is, did she actually see
it or hear about it in the version? Pues su pregunta es que no es hablar de los detalles, pero esta cosa de aprender del aviso fue cosa oído de la Virgen que va a venir un aviso o una cosa que estaba visto, como de aparición, visión.
Pues fue todo, porque yo creo que en ese momento todo se quedó como oscuro. Y pues, sí, no se puede, no puedo explicar eso.
Says you can't explain it very well.
Yo no sé que pasé mucho miedo.
Says remember she was very afraid at the moment, very terrifying, and she remembers that she said previously that it seemed like it was everything, like both seeing it and then also being told about it by the Blessed Virgin too at the same time. And then she remembers also everything got very dark.
Tiene que ser una cosa horrible porque teníamos mucho miedo con que sin ver a la Virgen, no sé, es una cosa.
So you can imagine that it's a very horrible thing because the fact that they were so terrified in what they were seeing, and at the same time seeing the Blessed Virgin, which is sort of taking away some of the fear that was something very terrifying.
What about the communist tribulation? Did they see that? Did they see that in vision also?
Por ejemplo, esta cosa de la tribulación de los comunistas, el comunismo o líos, ¿han visto algo o han oído de la Virgen algo de eso? ¿Cómo fue eso? La cosa de que va a tener revolución o toda esa cosa. ¿Qué es eso?
Pues no sé.
¿No puedes decir algo? ¿Fue cosa visto o oído? ¿Qué fue? ¿Que iba a venir revolución o qué?
Pues fueron las dos cosas, pero no se puede explicarlo, no sé.
She said it was the two things, meaning that they were told about it and also saw something.
Pero nos dijo que había que pedir mucho para que esas cosas no ocurrieran.
She said the important thing is to pray a lot in order that these things don't come, but it seems that, it has something to do with prayer. People, pray enough, and they could be avoided, but I guess if there's not enough prayer, then these things will come,
But could they tell the difference? Could Jacinta tell the difference between the chastisement and, say, the warning or this tribulation? Could they distinguish the difference between the two, since they saw both?
Pero por lo menos puedes ver la diferencia entre el castigo y el aviso, ¿no?
Es que yo más que pues el castigo es que es mucho peor que el aviso, porque el castigo es ya cuando ya no hay más remedio y el aviso es como un aviso como que te va a avisar para que no venga el castigo.
So she see the difference. Says that of course the chastisement is much more serious things, tremendously much more serious, because that's when there's no choice in the matter, the last resort, when it finally comes. The chastisement, of course, is a serious thing, a punishment, whereas a warning is simply just a warning, that, it's much less, it's not as serious a thing as the chastisement. It's a warning. So they could distinguish between the two, experiences that they were,
In a 1979 interview, you said that during the communist tribulation, quote, it was like an invasion, unquote. Did you see scenes of this invasion?
En una entrevista antes has dicho que has visto algo como, una cosa como una invasión, que has visto como una invasión. ¿Qué fue? ¿Una invasión, revolución? ¿Qué fue esa cosa? Que has dicho que has visto una invasión.
¿Que yo que he visto?
Sí, como invasión. ¿Qué prefiero? ¿Invasión? Okay.
Pues yo es que a veces confundo la invasión con la persecución.
So sometimes she confuses an invasion with the persecution. He gets the two confused sometimes. Two separate things. So, persecución y invasión, ¿no?
La persecución es cuando una persona quiere, pues cuando está luchando pero nunca llega ¿cómo se llama? A triunfar, ¿no? Pero entonces es como una lucha, pero la invasión es cuando una persona ya triunfó.
Okay, no, la invasión es cuando un ejército de soldados entra en un país y la gente va como corriendo, escapando de un ejército que viene. Esa es invasión. La persecución es cuando, por ejemplo, un grupo como comunistas hacen mal a la iglesia, cierran iglesias y ponen todo el edificio. Pues como, el aspecto fue como revolución o como.
Pues no, es toda una mezcla, no sé.
It seemed like a mixture and all. Because I asked her, I said, the invasion is like when, soldiers come in from another country and people are running, trying to escape, the invasion force coming in. That's a type of tribulation or turmoil, civil turmoil, running away. That's invasion. And persecution is, when things are made difficult, like for the church. Like, for example, if the communists take over in certain countries, closing down churches, and so.
Would she rather talk about certain things than other things?
The Blessed Virgin, you mean with the girls?
Yeah.
Would she prefer certain subjects to speak about than others? La Virgen prefería unos asuntos de hablar en vez de otros asuntos. Hay temas que ella prefería
El
hablar.
tema siempre lo más de ella era siempre casi eran los sacerdotes.
Says the subject matter that the Blessed Virgin seemed to prefer more than other subject was the subject of priest, of the priesthood and priests themselves. This was a subject that the Blessed Virgin seemed to favor most over other subjects, about the priesthood and priests in general.
Very, very significant. Did the Blessed in the first message, Our Lady asks for penance and sacrifice. What does penance and sacrifice mean to you? How do you interpret that?
La Virgen habló en el primer mensaje pidiendo sacrificio, penitencias. A ti, ¿qué significan las palabras sacrificio, penitencia?
Pues sacrificio para mí significa aceptar las cosas que no te gustan o, no sé, todas las cosas, hay muchos sacrificios.
Says for her the word sacrifice means accepting the difficult things, the things that one doesn't like, to have to accept, but still accepting them against the liking, the personal liking of the person.
Did the Virgin ever indicate to her what would be a sacrifice or a penance?
La Virgen ha indicado que será un sacrificio, por ejemplo. Ella dio un ejemplo diciendo pues esto es un sacrificio, una penitencia.
Pues en decir un sacrificio, penitencia, no, ella nada más que teníamos que ser sencillas, humildes y que teníamos que ser honestas. Entonces yo no sabía lo que era eso. Y obedientes.
Son cosas que ella dijo que debe ser.
Que debíamos de ser así.
Well, the Blessed Virgin, when she said the way they should act or be, may not specifically be to the word sacrifice, but she said that they should always be simple, honest, ¿qué más? Sencillas.
Y obedientes.
Obedient, very important, obedient. And all this was related to sacrifice, in a sense, like a sacrifice to have to be those ways, But sometimes it is a sacrifice to have those virtues,
During the apparitions, the Virgin taught you to recite the Rosary very slowly. Do you think she did this only because you were children who should learn to say it properly, or do you think it was an example that everyone should follow?
La Virgen enseñó el Rosario decirlo muy despacio. ¿Dio esto como un ejemplo para todos o solamente porque fueron niños?
No, era para todos, para que decía que había que pensar lo que se decía para meditarlo mejor.
No, she's
para todos.
Said it was for everyone. Blessed Virgin did it as an example for everybody, not just because they were children learning to do it better, but as an example for everyone in order to meditate better on the Rosary. By reciting it slowly, they can meditate better, instead of doing it fast.
Okay. When you recited the Hail Mary in ecstasy, bystanders heard you use the phrase, Mother of God and our Mother in the Hail Mary. Did the Virgin ever say anything to you about using this phrase or innovation?
La Virgen, cuando ustedes han dicho esta cosa, nuestra madre, madre de Dios y nuestra madre. La Virgen dijo algo sobre esto, si está bien.
Ella dijo que le gustaba, pero que hasta que no lo aprobaría la iglesia, que ya no decía nada.
The Blessed Virgin answered, she said she liked it, she liked the way they said it, but on the other hand, that they should not say it until the church approved of it. And since the church hadn't approved of it, they actually shouldn't say it, although the Blessed Virgin did like it, personally.
Well, how did you come to say it? Did you decide beforehand, among the four of you, that you would say it that way? Or did it just come out spontaneously while you were praying in ecstasy?
¿Y cómo salió esto de decirse de la Virgen Nuestra Madre? ¿Cómo salió de repente?
De repente, porque estábamos diciendo Santa María, Madre de Dios, pues era Madre de Dios y en ese momento la sentíamos Madre Nuestra.
So it just came out suddenly from them. They didn't plan it ahead of time. That as they were saying the Hail Mary, they just felt it inside of them come on them, and they just came out with them, as they were praying.
Como era una madre, pues nosotros queríamos que pues eres también Madre Nuestra.
They wanted to tell her, you're our mother too,
But did all four say it at the same time?
Las cuatro ha dicho eso, salió de repente de
Yo creo que salió de repente así, no sé, no sé cómo fue.
She says she wasn't sure exactly how it happened, but she says it seems to her that it just came out, because all four of them all at once, like that, There's something...
Very interesting. Okay, I think you've already answered this question. Did the Blessed Mother say not to use that form until it was approved by the Church? So
yes,
you just answered that question.
So not to until it was approved.
Okay, when was the last time you went to Garabandal?
¿Cuándo fue la última vez?
Ya va a ser 3 años.
3 years ago.
What do you think of the village today as compared to what it was during the time of the apparitions?
¿Y qué piensas del pueblo comparado hoy día? Como de antes, antes del tiempo de apariciones.
Pues me gustaba mucho antes porque era más sencillo, pero pues...
¿Te gustó más antes?
Más antes sí, porque era más sencillo y como más espiritual también.
So she liked it better before the way it was because it was more, the people were simpler and more spiritual, And now it doesn't seem to be quite as simple, it's not as spiritual. Es más como del mundo.
Sí, pero sí todo me gusta.
She says, now it's more worldly, but on the other hand, she still likes it because it's her hometown,
The visionaries to see a vision of the Sacred Heart at Garabandal. When you reflect on that vision, what comes to your mind first?
Tú fuiste la única para ver esa corazón. ¿Qué piensas cuando recuerdas eso?
Pues pienso, lo meto más, ¿cómo se dice? Cuando ves una cosa, más sensación, lo tengo como más grabado que la Virgen.
Well, she says that she remembers this better than the apparition of the Blessed Virgin herself, that this made a bigger impression of seeing the Sacred Heart, and that, it's of course a more important thing to her. ¿Y qué piensas de ello?
Pues no sé, no pienso porque no me dijo nada, nada más me miró como una cosa como diciendo, ay, como estoy contigo, estaré contigo, no sé.
So
una mirada de amores, no sé.
So he had like a look of love on his face, and therefore, she had the feeling that, although he didn't say anything personally to her, her feeling was, I am with you, and I will be with you, And so when she thinks of it, she has this same feeling that, I will be with you, I am with you. And so that's the way, the type of feeling or thought that she has,
Fue muy distinto a la Virgen.
So it was very different, though, than the apparitions of the Blessed Virgin, in that sense.
Okay. What thoughts come to your mind first?
Y cuando recuerdes las apariciones de la Virgen en San Miguel, ¿qué pensamiento?
Sí.
¿Piensas de la Virgen y las apariciones de la Virgen en San Miguel? ¿Qué piensas?
¿Cómo que piensas?
Bueno, ¿qué es el primer sentimiento o pensamiento?
Pues el primer pensamiento es eso, yo pienso que ¿por qué me escoge a mí?
So her first thought when she recalls these apparitions, she said, why did they choose me, instead of somebody else for this, that's her first thought, feeling, why me? Good.
Are you aware that something is supposed to happen that will cause most people to stop believing in Garabandal? Do you know what that is? What that something is?
Sabes que va a pasar una cosa que la gente que cree en Garabandal va a dejarlo, no va a creer más. ¿Sabes de esa cosa?
No.
Or no sabes nada de eso?
No sé nada de eso.
She said she doesn't know anything about
No sé qué
that
cosa
particular point. You know, reunite. ¿Y dijo cuándo?
No, pues no nos dijo que pidiéramos.
She said she didn't say exactly when, but she said to pray
Did
for
she
it.
say,
when it
did she
does come.
indicate if that meant the Protestants and the Catholics, or did that include like the Orthodox and the Catholic?
No
and the
dijo
Protestant?
que iglesias, por ejemplo, iglesias protestantes o ortodoxas o otras religiones. Or
Todas que se unirían a la católica.
she said all would reunite into the Catholic Church, all the other churches.
Now that's important. She said all would come into the Catholic Church.
Yes, come into it. Reunite. Todos van a entrar dentro de la iglesia
Sí, ella nada más,
católica.
ella nada más decía a la iglesia católica, no nombraba a las otras.
She said into the Catholic Church. She didn't name specifically the names of the other churches, but she said all the churches would come into the Catholic Church. Todos van a entrar dentro de la iglesia católica.
Dentro de la iglesia católica. Pues nada más ella nos hablaba de la iglesia católica, no nos hablaba de las otras iglesias.
Sí, pero dijo las palabras, las otras iglesias van a entrar a la iglesia católica, ¿no? Que ella dijo que hay otras iglesias, ¿no?
No dijo nada, ella no ponía nada de otros y les decía la humanidad, solamente va a haber una iglesia.
Ajá.
Pero no
Por toda la
decía,
humanidad.
sí,
y solo la iglesia
sí,
católica.
pero no decía de esto, porque ella nunca criticaba a nadie.
Okay, fine. The way it was worded, the best version said, it says all humanity would be within one church, the Catholic Church. That's the way it was worded. All humanity. You know, she didn't name any other church. She didn't criticize anybody. She didn't say anything. She just said all humanity would be, within one church, Catholic Church. This is similar to the prophecies of some of the saints too.
So did she say within one church or within the Catholic Church?
Oh, within the Catholic Church, she said. It would be just one church only, and it would be the Catholic Church.
And it would be the Catholic Church.
Yes, the Catholic
And the
Church.
Blessed Mother definitely used that word católico.
Dijo la Iglesia Católica.
Católica, sí.
Yeah, she said the word Catholic Church and all mankind, toda la humanidad, all mankind would
Pero
be.
que había que pedir mucho.
But she said also it's necessary also to pray towards this intention too. But she said it would happen. It would take time. It will
Did
happen.
she say, indicate when?
No ha dicho cuándo, no.
No, nada más
Sí,
en
sí,
nosotros está.
Ah.
Pues si pedimos
Sí.
más, pues más rápido.
That's right. It says it says we should pray towards it, but by praying more, prayer can happen quicker. Not as much prayer happening later, but it would happen. They're saints. It's
Sí, muy
importante.
importante.
The best
Como ahora
version
lo
said-
quieren quitar.
So the
Ahora
best
es muy
version,
importante.
the best version said confession is very important. The question says the best version speak about the sacrament of reconciliation.
Yes.
Confession. So he said yes, it was very important. Essentially, we're saying now that there are people who want to do away with it, just get rid of it. But it is a very important sacrament.
Did the Virgin ever indicate how often people should go to them?
La Virgen ha dicho deben ir a menudo o cuánto, o no dijo cuántas veces deben ir a la confesión.
Pues eso depende. Pero dijo que era muy importante porque es pues reconocer que has pecado y entonces te da un sacramento para ponerte más fuerte.
Best version, as far as you remember, didn't indicate exactly how often they should go, but it said it was very important that it should go when necessary, and that it's important to recognize within oneself that they had sinned in order to make an effort not to do so, to improve oneself, to recognize.
Jacinta has mentioned once before that she had a dream where she saw people taking communion in the hand.
Yes.
Was this dream? Was it something that she thought was bad? Did she have the understanding that this was a good thing, a bad thing, or just something that was going to happen within the church?
Cuando tú dices ese sueño, ¿qué pensaste de la comunión en la mano? ¿Qué va a pasar? ¿Eso es cosa buena, cosa mala?
Cosa mala, yo pensé. Como que no se daba respeto a la Sagrada Comunión.
Cosa mala. She felt, when she had this dream, she felt it was it seemed kind of bad to her at the time because it seemed like you weren't giving as much respect to the Holy Communion. And she had mentioned before it was at the beginning of the apparitions.
Como miedo me dio, no
Yeah,
sé.
it kind of scared her. She said she had this dream at the beginning of the apparitions in summer of 1961. you know, before any of this was discussed. And it was like a prophetic dream, a prophecy, because she saw people there receiving communion in the hand, as if it were approved of already by the church, you know, and people doing it. And but she didn't like it because to her it was less respect for the Blessed Sacrament. So to her it seemed like something that wasn't good. But
and you, when you went up to communion in this dream, you they wanted to give you communion in the hand.
You know, sueño, tú fuiste allí para recibir communion, querían dar communion.
Sí, no la quise.
Yeah, in a dream she dreamed that they wanted to give her communion in the hand, but she didn't want it in the hand.
Pues no la cogí.
She didn't take it
En ese momento desperté.
And then she woke up at that moment, but she refused to take it in the hand. And she woke up at that moment.
Sí.
But the interesting thing is the dream happened in the summer of 1961 at a time when there was no discussion yet about having communion in the hand, and she'd never heard of it. And she told her mother the dream and told several other people, and they said, oh, this seems a very bad dream, a great scandal. How could they say that the church would approve of communion in the hand, giving it out to everyone in the hand, and less respect? But it came true. Like many other things she has dreamed has come true afterwards, like, you know.
It must be interesting in the dream, is that?
Pardon? Well, no, I think it's a very important.
Some of the dreams that Jacinta has had.
Yes. Well, yeah, it's really surprising, you know. There's been some dreams that they're like prophecies of things that are going to happen. And I remember the day my father died, that morning Jacinta told me that she had a dream that my father was going to die suddenly, and he had never had anything wrong with himself. And later that day, it was on a Sunday, he went to Mass and Communion, and a few hours later he was at home, he had a heart attack and died suddenly that same day. So it was the same day that Jacinta told me that in the dream she saw my father was going to die suddenly, and it happened later that same day, and we didn't tell anybody about it. And it was such a shock and surprise because my father was only 60 years old, and he was still, you know, working, he was very active, and he had no health problems that we knew of. And so it was like a warning to prepare us in a way. It was like an act of mercy from God to show what was going to happen. And there have been a number of other activities and things that Jacinta has seen, like for the future, and they've happened. You know, usually they pertain to family members or to friends, and certain things that were normally kept hidden, then Jacinta would see them and say, well, this is going to happen, and she saw it in a dream. And then later, a few months later, the events would turn out exactly as she had described, as if she had seen them, you know. And it seems like a gift from God, and it's something that's very beautiful. It shows that God shows concern in our own personal lives, and it's sort of like a preparation for things that happen, and a little bit of a message too. And it's like a grace from God, so I think it's worth mentioning, you know, that these things happen too, which are very nice. But of course God, I think, gives everybody something, you know. If they don't receive one thing, they'll receive something else from God. So He's very generous in giving, you know, gifts and talents and so forth, and He has something for everyone, you know. But,
how many brothers and sisters do you have?
¿Cuántos hermanos? Hermanos?
8.
There's 8 children altogether.
How old would they be now?
¿Cuántos años tienen? ¿Son mayores? Or?
Sí, porque yo soy la séptima.
She's number 7, you know, the second to the last, so they're all older, except for one. They're all older than her.
And what are they doing now?
¿Y qué hacen?
Todos están en España, menos solo que está en Nueva York.
She's around Spain working, except there's one in New York that works there in New York. So,
do you like living here in California?
¿Te gusta vivir aquí en California? La vida es un sacrificio, ¿no?
No, o sea, no sé.
Sí, la verdad es un sacrificio.
Me gustaría más vivir en España, pero pues tengo que estar aquí.
She says she would prefer to live in Spain, but she has to be here. So it's something of a sacrifice. It's not really a luxury, you know. Although California is a nice place, it's probably a sacrifice. To be far from home is a sacrifice. From one's home country, one's... ¿A menudo hablar por teléfono o qué?
Sí, pues a lo mejor una vez al mes, pero una vez estoy casi 2 horas.
She says
a ver, pues la cuenta.
So sometimes she calls as often as once a month because they're on the phone together, and sometimes they talk as long as 2 hours. Sometimes, yeah, well,
sí, pero yo la que llamo y ella venga a hablar.
So she calls.
You're paying for it.
Well, they call too, but you know.
Cuando estoy triste o así, pues quiero
when she feels sad or a little bit depressed and likes to talk with her friends.
How is Jacinta